which expression is equivalent to the given expression. So we're going to multiply these two together. We do have something different in this problem based on the previous problems, and actually it seems I'm going out of order here, but that's okay. We have a negative exponent in here, but we still need to deal with this second expression first because we have it raised to a power. And I know that it has a negative exponent in there, but I'm going to flip over to my notebook paper and we'll work on this problem here. We're not going to touch the 7y to the 6th right now, so I'm just going to leave that alone. But once again, we've got something raised to a power, and what happens is that everything in the parentheses gets raised to what's outside the parentheses. So this is going to be 2 squared, and it's going to be y to the negative 4 squared. Well, if we simplify that, 2 squared means 2 times 2. Again, if you don't know that, type it into Desmos. 2 squared is 4, and then over here we're going to superpower, and we get negative 4 times 2, which is y to the negative 8. So here's our second expression. Maybe a little bit different from what Edmentum did, but now we need to multiply these two together. And when we multiply these two together, we end up with multiplying the numbers together, and then we're going to multiply the y's together. So 7 times 4 is 28, and then when we multiply these y's, what we do is we add these values together. And 6 plus negative 8 gives us y to the negative 2. Now, that negative in here, and we'll go back and we'll look at the answers, which we need to know this, is what happens with the negative exponent is that this part, and this part only, the y part, because it has the negative exponent, is going to flip or take the reciprocal and change the sign. 28 is not going to move. But what happens is that y to the negative 2 is on the top, if we think of this as a fraction, and now we're going to flip it, and when we flip it, we change the sign on the exponent. So this becomes 28 over y squared. If we go back to that problem here, it is going to be the very bottom value, 28 divided by y to the negative 2. Originally, my intention was to do this upcoming problem first, but since it was on my screen, the problem that I had on my screen is the problem that I used. But let's take a look at this problem here. This one has division in it, and I do have it copied down on my notebook paper, so we'll switch over there. And also I will say that I do this just slightly different than Edmentum does. And I'm fine with Edmentum's method, but I like my method. So as I pull my iPad away here, what's going to happen is we're going to have to take 8 divided by 2, and we're going to take j to the 4th divided by j to the 5th, and we're going to take k to the 8 divided by k to the 6th. And with regard to the numbers, we just divide the numbers. 8 divided by 2 is 4. When we're dividing terms with exponents in them, what happens is we subtract, and I like to do top minus bottom every single time. So the top exponent is 4, the bottom exponent is 5. Same thing with the k's. Top exponent is 8, bottom exponent is 6. We subtract when we divide. Multiply, we add, subtract when we divide. So what that gives us here is it gives us 4 j to the negative 1 k squared. 8 minus 6 is 2. But what we need to deal with is we need to deal with that negative 1. So the 4 is not going to change. The k squared is not going to change. What's going to change is j to the negative 1. You can think of this problem as a fraction, and we're going to move that j from the top of the fraction to the bottom. By the way, Edmentum does not like you writing the 1. So even though I wrote it, I flipped it, and I changed the sign on the exponent, But really, when we look for the answer on Adventum, they do not want the 1 written. As you can see over here when I pull the problem back up, 4k squared over j.